Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
You came to me in a dream last night. You were standing in a brilliant light. 1 minute here, but the next you were gone. I thought you could stay, but I was so wrong. The end is here, the game is over. No more pretending, no more, no more. The end is here, the end is here, the end is here, the end is here. The end is here.
The year 1947 saw the commencement of Project Cirrus, an ambitious initiative aimed at controlling hurricanes. Supported by the U.S. military, General Electric collaborated with the government to experiment with cloud seeding in the hurricane using silver iodide. However, the project faced scrutiny and controversy when the manipulated hurricane changed course, striking Savannah, Georgia. Irving Langmuir, a key player in the project, harbored aspirations of weaponizing weather, raising doubts about the true intentions behind the mission. The public's disapproval added a layer of mystery to the project, leaving lingering uncertainties about its ultimate goals and ramifications. The project faced challenges and controversies, with doubts raised about its true intentions and potential ramifications amidst public disapproval and mystery surrounding its ultimate goals.
We have had the technology to create, control, and steer hurricanes for decades.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's atmospheric research department and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus. But the government denied it for 12 years. After a short delay, the project officially continued, and in 1965, Project Storm Fury had targeted Hurricane Betsy for seeding. On that day, the storm immediately changed direction and made landfall in southern Florida. Congress blamed it on Project Storm Fury, but the government claimed that the hurricane shifted before they ever had a chance to seed it. And after 2 months of congressional hearings, the project was allowed to continue.
In 1997, U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen admitted we have the technology to control the weather, including earthquakes and volcanoes. The U.S. government has placed gag orders on employees of the National Weather Service. In October of 2012, after Hurricane Sandy weakened to a tropical storm, microwave imagery shows a thick red beam immediately followed by Sandy growing into a Category 1 hurricane and taking an unexplained left turn into New Jersey. The push towards alternative energy demands more lithium, and according to the U.S. Geological Survey, the United States has over 6 million tons of identified lithium resources. The majority of this lithium has been identified in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Kings Mountain is believed to have one of the largest resources in the world, but the biggest problem is that people live there and they don't want their quiet towns turned into lithium mines.
People in Cherville have been pushing against a proposed lithium mine for the last several years, but everyone we spoke with here said it's too divisive of an issue to share their opinion on camera. Cherryville is a small, quiet town.
I think that's good that we keep it small.
So quiet, many don't feel comfortable speaking out against Piedmont Lithium's proposed mining operation nearby.
I think we're a silent majority. I think a lot of people are afraid to say anything about it because they are bringing a lot to the town as far as money.
Last year, the Department of Defense entered a $90 million agreement with Albemarle Corporation to increase domestic production of lithium for the nation's battery supply chain, specifically from Kings Mountain, North Carolina, starting by 2025. This is the same area experiencing what is being described as biblical floods. While the federal government spends billions on foreign wars and illegal immigrants, they simply cannot be bothered with the health and well-being of the American people, especially those living on coveted mineral-rich land. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
אזרחים יקרים, לפני זמן קצר שוגרו טילים מאיראן לשטח מדינת ישראל. אתם מתבקשים לגלות ערנות ולפעול בדיוק לפי הנחיות פיקוד העורף. בדקות האחרונות פיקוד העורף הפיץ הודעות לפלאפונים באזורים מסוימים עם הנחיות מצילות חיים, המנחות על כניסה למרחב המוגן.
Sigurdsson reports on the recent bombing of Tel Aviv, as Iran has allegedly sent ballistic missiles that managed to break through the Iron Dome defense system. Many see this as a calculated move by Israel to justify further aggression. Over the years, Israel has been accused of causing the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians, especially women and children. The apparent destruction of the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv has added fuel to the fire. Despite claims that the Iron Dome was ineffective against ballistic missiles, reports suggest that a significant number were intercepted, raising questions about the true capabilities of the defense system. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy has reportedly intercepted numerous rockets from its destroyer ships, adding another layer of complexity to the situation.
Declaration of war between Israel and Lebanon, as Israel enters Lebanon by land and pummels Beirut in what they called limited strikes. This is yet another escalation while simultaneously telling Iran not to defend itself as their politicians are killed in strikes. Israel is demanding the United States strike Iran for them, which of course would cause a direct war with Russia, who is already up against U.S. proxies in Ukraine. Conveniently, Israel is also striking near Russian bases in Syria. Even the former Israeli defense minister is saying that Israel's military is immoral and is executing innocent Palestinians. 1 million Lebanese are set to be displaced, according to the Prime Minister of Lebanon. Israel doesn't care about getting rid of Hezbollah. They care about the Greater Israel Project and expanding their land from the Nile to the Euphrates, while killing as many as possible along the way. If Hezbollah justifies Israel's strikes as a terrorist organization, Then what does that say for Israel, whose IDF has killed hundreds of times more innocent civilians than Hezbollah? The U.S. Navy was recently told to prepare for war with China by 2027, as China sends weapons to Russia, and a new economic bloc shifts powers to BRICS. The U.S. also just sent over $500 million to aid Taiwan in defense. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's an excuse to force the world under new emergency orders and dictates which would push technocracy, digital ID, CBDCs, and compliance across the board. Are people going to fight back by being independent? Or will they sit and wait to see what happens as the world devolves into World War III chaos? The perfect situation for the Great Reset to take over. As Klaus Schwab said, China is the role model for the Great Reset. It was written this way long ago.
On Tuesday evening local time, Iran launched missiles at Israel, prompting Israelis to seek shelter in bomb shelters. The Home Front Command swiftly issued life-saving instructions nationwide, advising residents to stay in protected areas when sirens blare. The IDF is dedicated to safeguarding civilians, with Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari offering assurance of their resilience. Prior to the attack, the U.S. had issued a warning, stressing the importance of remaining vigilant and following safety protocols to mitigate risks.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. Iran fires dozens of missiles into Israel as retaliation for killing of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. Now, this article is over a couple hours old and things are moving very quickly because we're already not talking about dozens anymore. We're talking about hundreds of missiles being fired into Israel from Iran. This is largely following the Israeli forces who began a targeted ground operation in Lebanon, the Israeli Defense Force says. So it looks like war is beginning now in the Middle East, bombs away. Israel's military, in a breaking news wire, says that rockets have been fired from Iran at Israel. And if you look at some of the footage that's coming in, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty terrifying. As you can see here, these ballistic missiles are clearly getting past Israel's Iron Dome defense system. As you can see here, they're clearly hitting their targets. Now, this differs in a big way from when Iran attacked Israel a few months ago, back in April. I reported on that here. Israel's readying imminent attack on Iran, while Americans are panic searching World War III and can I be drafted? And back then, you may recall that it was more like drones that were flying towards Israel, and they took hours to get there, and they were easily shot down. Well, these ballistic missiles in particular don't take hours to get there. They take about 12 minutes. So that's why they have actually started hitting their targets, and this is a very, very serious, real situation going on here. Iran has launched 400 missiles at Israel. This is terror in Tel Aviv as rockets are smashing buildings and sirens blare and barrage from Tehran. Biden said yesterday in response to a question of if they're going to deploy more troops to the Middle East, he says no. And then today, the very following day, the Pentagon announced that more U.S. troops are being deployed to the Middle East. Imagine that. Somebody's running the country, and it definitely ain't Joe Biden. Meanwhile, guys, at least 8 people are dead after gunmen opened fire at Tel Aviv light rail station in an on-the-ground attack as Iran launches missiles. It looks like a coordinated attack happening in Tel Aviv from Iran. So President Joe Biden has issued a strong warning saying, as they're launching these heavy missile attacks, that they will be defending Israel at all costs. IDF has responded saying the Middle East is on the brink of an all-out war. So this is escalating very, very quickly, guys. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says Iran would never have been attacked, have never attacked Israel if he was president, and warns that the U.S. is on the brink of World War III. Various, very, very serious words to be coming from the former president and potential next president of the United States. So we're going to cover all of this, guys, and much, much more in this video. Really quickly, though, before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this info. Here you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You can join me as a Patreon alternative. I've been kicked off of Patreon, and there you can sign up for $5 or $10 or $20 a month. Whatever is within your means is very greatly appreciated. You can also do that here at Subscribestar. You can send me an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca, or you can send stuff to my P.O. Box, guys. Links for all of this are located in the description below. Thank you so much to everybody who takes 1 minute today to support my efforts financially here at Press for Truth. All right, guys, just last month, I guess 2 months ago now, August 5th, I reported on this. These military defense stocks are rallying as the market crashes. Are they preparing for World War III? Because back in August, I had noticed that the stocks of Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman were growing exponentially at a time when all other major assets in the stock markets were crashing. We saw these particular defense stocks rallying amid these geopolitical tensions. So it got me wondering, what do they know that the rest of the world doesn't? These investors, and what is, the likes of Lockheed Martin planning? Well, we see here shares are trading higher today. They're up by over 2% today alone. Reports have surfaced indicating that Iran is preparing a ballistic missile strike against Israel in retaliation for an airstrike that killed Hezbollah leader. The U.S. has indicated that it believes the attack is imminent, heightening the risk of a broader regional conflict. So again, more money is being pumped into the military-industrial complex in the months leading up to this, and literally even right up to this morning. 2% of a spike in the shares. And now the IDF is saying the Middle East is on the brink of an all-out major war. The Israeli military has confirmed that Iran has unleashed a barrage of missiles into Israel tonight, with the Islamic Republic defying warnings that any such attack would invite severe consequences. Air raid sirens sounded as missiles began raining down on Israel on Tuesday, with some rockets dramatically exploding into bright orange flames near Tel Aviv. And Iran, as Iran unleashed a sustained wave of attacks, other missiles burst into flames in the air as they appeared to be intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system. And the Israeli military has vowed that there will be repercussions for this attack, with the ambulance service reporting no injuries from the onslaught. The expected Iranian attack marks a major escalation in the Israel-Hamas war and follows a previous bombardment in April, which saw hundreds of drones and missiles launched into the country. With the world holding its breath over an all-out war in the Middle East now, the White House has said that President Joe Biden has ordered the U.S. military to aid Israel in defense and to shoot down Iranian missiles. In fact, it seems that the White House is prepared to defend Israeli military, though there have not been any official authorization in Congress, no less any kind of debate to do such a thing. Imagine that, folks. The Pentagon on Monday confirmed that it's sending a few thousand additional troops to the Middle East to be on standby, if needed, to defend Israel from a broader attack. This is widely being seen as preparations for war against Iran if needed. So they've seen this coming. They've been preparing for it. And let's not forget that it is the U.S. utilizing proxy wars and their, boogeyman organizations that were set up by them, by the CIA, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like, Al-Qaeda, like ISIS. They've used these groups to be able to destabilize the Middle East and to go in there and to essentially take down various, forms of government to install their own, systems of democracy that are easily controlling the Middle East. That's what this is all about. This is a massive takeover that's been happening for decades now. In fact, I'll remind you about the former NATO Secretary General Wesley Clark, who admitted that he was shown a memo while he was at the Pentagon explaining that there was a secret plan by these U.S. Pentagon officials to take out, what was it, 7 countries in 5 years. This is from the archives of global research, global warfare, we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, in Iran. This is coming from General Wesley Clark. He is a former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. He was informed about a memo from the Secretary of Defense's office in 2001, which outlined a plan to invade and destroy the governments of 7 countries within 5 years. And it was obviously in 2001 because this was shortly after 9/11, when everyone was lied about, Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction. And everybody knows none of that was true. It was just an excuse to invade. Well, this is around the time that General Clark was advised of this particular memo. And let me, play for you this now infamous interview, and you could hear it from the horse's mouth himself. This is a man who was privy to these inside, very secret plans. And listen to him lay it out here in this interview.
And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do."
It's a couple of weeks after 9/11.
So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me."
Crazy that the audience is laughing at this, because what he is saying here is incredibly revealing and incredibly serious. He is saying that there is a secret plan from the U.S. government to take out the countries of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. Obviously, if they tried to preemptively do that, if they were the ones to, strike first, it wouldn't look so good for the American empire. So excuses are constantly drawn up for them to be able to do this invasion. So right now, folks, it looks like what we're seeing in the Middle East is largely in part due to the covert U.S. actions of, setting up these terrorist networks and utilizing them to destabilize the Middle East so that they can go in and offer some sort of humanitarian mission or some sort of, defense plan to save these poor Israelis who are being attacked. It's all a massive secretive proxy war that is designed to completely take over the Middle East. And you got to remember who enemy number one is when you're looking at this. It's criminal elements within the intelligence communities in the U.S., like the CIA, ladies and gentlemen. So just wanted to bring all of this to your attention because, Trump says, hey, none of this would happen if he were, president. And obviously that's a bunch of nonsense. But saying that we're on the brink of World War III is something that shouldn't be taken lightly from a former president and somebody who may be the next selected president of the United States. So just wanted to bring all of this to your attention, guys. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to do so, don't forget to check me out here, pressfortruth.ca/donate. You can check that top link in the description below on whatever video platform you happen to be watching this on, whether it's on BitChute or Rumble or Minds, or, Odyssey, or Band, or any of the other great platforms that I post on. Please check the links in the description below to where you can support my efforts here at Press for Truth. And that's all for today, guys. Just wanted to bring this breaking news to your attention. I'll continue to stay on top of this because it is a very fast-pacing, developing story. So I just wanted to bring the breaking news to your attention. Once again, if you do appreciate that, don't forget to share this video, click the thumbs up button, and stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth.
The tyranny and the arrogance and the ineptitude of not just the globalist puppets we have here in America, but all over the captured Western world is spectacular. $45 billion was spent in the last 3.5 years to, quote, put in wireless internet to rural areas. How much wireless internet was put in? Zero. I have articles again today. Zero. 7.6 billion in the last 3.5 years to put in EV charging stations that only cost like $100,000 a piece. Guess how many they put in for $7+ billion? On the port strike, nation braces for inflation spike and supply chain chaos. Experts warn U.S. faces $5 billion loss a day. The Biden administration says they're not responding and are not even. I have another video. They're asked about. They said, we don't have a statement. We don't have a policy on that.
Where have you been kind of focused and hearing on what would happen if the strike goes, let's say, longer than a week?
Again, I have not been very focused on that.
It's beyond nuts. But of course, they want this. They want the country collapsing. They've turned off the energy, the pipelines, everything. I was reading here, 40 trillion gallons of rain hit the South. 40 trillion gallons. And then I've got so many newscasts of illegal aliens running around, looting everything.
I command call a telephone. Is it all my security people? Is it not important for the country to see?
The feds are coming in and saying, we don't care if we have federal and state laws. You can check for ID and make sure somebody's on a voter roll. You're going to let anybody who wants to vote, vote, including, now it was 90-something thousand. Now they're admitting 200+ thousand dead people and illegal aliens on the rolls in Arizona, and the feds say they're going to vote. And Newsom has put out an order that no one is allowed to check for IDs in California, so the illegals can vote as well. And the folks vote in the names of dead people. You've got Iran and Israel bombing 4 countries, and Iran's sitting there taking it because they know Israel's going to vaporize Tehran the minute Iran makes a move. And that is super dangerous. It's gone from a drumbeat to a crescendo. I mean, they are running around openly normalizing quarantines, lockdowns, forced injections, surveillance, arresting you for your speech, AI, censoring you in live time. You don't even know what's happening. I mean, they are in panic, crap their britches mode. So what I'm trying to say is the fight has gone to the next level.
Claiming to solve a very real problem without doing anything whatsoever to solve this problem. We are on the fast lane, the fast track to just 21st century, 22nd century stupidity, and it's going to amount to nothing but massive world war explosions and collapse. And these unions and these dock workers just want to shut down the economy. They want people to starve. We've allowed ourselves to be totally dependent on China's economy and production for everything, essential and non-essential alike, making us so vulnerable to just total destruction by actual political philosophies and peoples and governments that do despise our values. You remember after 9/11 in 2001, they said that the terrorists attacked us because they hate our freedom. Call them freedom fries if the French won't help us in the war. They're freedom fries now, not French fries. That was the dumbest shit I've ever seen, excuse me. They say that the terrorists hated our freedom so much and our way of life so much that they attacked us, even though we know it was a false flag operation. We knew that it was coming. We allowed it to happen. We catalyzed it. Alex Jones predicted it before it happened, said, warn the White House. They're going to blame it on Osama bin Laden. But the CCP does actually hate our freedom. The Chinese Communist power, the Maoists, like Tim Walz, they do actually hate things like private property rights, individual freedoms, individual rights, because they only think in terms of the collective. And they have to eradicate all individual identity to put everyone in one malleable group. It's so much easier to manage a people as a collective than it is every individual within an institution or a civilization. That's why they hate individualism so much. And so why is it that our leaders have allowed us to become so dependent on a very powerful superpower that does actually hate our freedom and way of life and philosophy and culture in the way that we claimed that the terrorists from 9/11 do? And if those desert people can hijack a plane, fly it into buildings, catalyze a 20-year war that they win, they won the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, I don't care what anybody tells you, then what do you think China can do? If we couldn't beat the Afghanis or the Iraqis or the terrorists in the desert, they're running around with AK-47s. We've got the most sophisticated weaponry in the world, allegedly. Probably not even true anymore, that. What do you think China could do to us? And right now, they're dependent on our economy. Yes, there is a codependence happening, but that is going away very quickly, and Ukraine is a very central part of that. That's the real reason that we're funding billions upon billions of dollars to Ukraine, because we understand that if China, through Ukraine and Russia, becomes independent of our agricultural exports, specifically soybeans, it is going to totally change the power structure and dynamic of the world in a very dangerous and vulnerable way. But for some reason, instead of trying to explain that to the people of the United States of America, trying to make a case for that, I guess because they understand that it shows the inefficiencies and vulnerabilities of our whole entire approach to leadership in this country, they just make this erroneous claim that the reason we're supporting Ukraine is because we believe in their national sovereignty, or we believe in their freedom or their democracy. First of all, if they're members of NATO, they have no national sovereignty. They're not members of NATO, but that's the argument that it should be. So it's not about protecting their national sovereignty whatsoever. Second of all, it's not about protecting a democracy. Zelensky canceled all the elections. It's certainly not a democracy. And we know that it's not about protecting the sanctity of their borders, because we have allowed tens of millions of people to come into this country illegally in the last 3 years. 500,000 of them at least convicted criminals. Tens of thousands of those 500,000 convicted of crimes like rape, murder, and robbery. Or burglary. The other crime is more petty. So you're telling me we have 500,000 criminals running around in this country that we let in, but our government believes in things like national sovereignty? You got to be absolutely kidding me. And we see them sacrifice our interests time and time again. Let's just look at the fact that Donald Trump, as a citizen of the United States of America, is behaving in a more presidential way than Kamala Harris as the VP running candidate, or as Joe Biden, who's sitting at the beach while floods happen the world over. Even CNN is pointing this out. This is clip number 1. CNN admits Trump is treated like sitting president when visiting hurricane victims.
He is being treated not just as a former president, but almost as though he is a sitting president. As Boris, you just noted, getting a briefing from FEMA, getting a briefing from the National Guard. That is not something that is typically just offered to a candidate. They are treating him as though he is a former president who is there to help. And one thing that I had noticed earlier during our 1 p.m. conversation was that Donald Trump did not have that much to offer in terms of resources, since he is not a sitting president. But I will note that he and the campaign say that they have arrived in that area with trucks full of supplies that they plan on giving out. So there is something there for them to offer. He also said that he had a tanker truck full of gasoline, which obviously, if you've ever covered one of these storms, you understand that one of the first things and hardest things to come by is gasoline. So he said that he was going to be giving that out. He is clearly taking this seriously as a politician is on the ground, trying to show that he is there.
So again, we have Trump doing the actual work, coordinating with Elon Musk for Starlink to be available, trying to deliver supplies while our own federal government fails. And for some reason, we're the domestic terrorists. We're the selfish, greedy capitalists. We're the evil ones that want to betray and deny freedom. We don't care about minority communities. We are so evil, in fact, that they've even created an off-Broadway play called Fatherland, which is obviously a nod to The common Nazi reference of Germany as the fatherland. They made a movie about J6 called Fatherland. I got to show you this clip. It's clip number 8, just about 1 minute long. Watch how they're depicting you. Watch how they're depicting you.
There, and the 6 should be locked up for the rest of their lives. Everyone.
Are you recording this?
What?
Are you recording this?
No. I am not recording.
You better not be. Don't betray me. Don't ruin this family. Do not put this family in jeopardy.
I am not the one that is putting our family in jeopardy.
If you cross a line here, I will do my duty. I will have no other choice. Choose a side. Choose a side or die. I put you in this world. I can take you out. Don't turn your back on.
I'm not turning my back.
Whoever turns his back on me is a traitor. Is that what's happening here? If you turn me in, you are a traitor. And traitors get shot.
Unbelievable depiction. And you notice how when they don't have an actual historical example of something specific happening that they wish had happened to make their political case, they just make it up in a fiction. They make up this interaction between a father and a son that never really took place in order to just project it and ascribe it onto entire swaths of our population for their own political gain. We see the same thing happen with the Kamala Harris campaign when talking about IVF and abortion issues. They hire actors to do these ads about how they could have died if these policies were in place, or maybe they wouldn't have been able to have their children if these policies were in place, but no one died and you were able to have children. And they just got caught this week hiring paid actors to claim that they switched from being Republican voters to Democratic voters on the ad, because they can't find real examples of these people. Or if they do find a real example of these people, it's not somebody that they want to have on camera because it doesn't match the demographic that they're trying to target. So they just hire actors to claim that they switched from Republican to Democrat, and they're so excited. But they love us so much. We're the ones that don't care about the people of America. They love us and freedom so much that WikiLeaks' Julian Assange has come out and said that he pleaded guilty to journalism in order to be freed. We know who the enemies of free speech are. They say it themselves. We know who the enemies of the press are. They say it themselves. John Kerry this week saying that the First Amendment itself is a threat to democracy. Hillary Clinton this week saying that the press needs to have a more controlled and centered narrative against Trump. These are 2 violations of the First Amendment right there. But we're the ones that don't care about journalism, or we're the ones that are responsible for misinformation or disinformation. Tell me, if the government has a total monopoly over the distribution of information whatsoever, who do you think is the most capable of distributing misinformation in that case then? And we know they've tried to do it because Project Mockingbird is documented, folks. And when there were only 3 or 4 or 5 channels whereby everyone in America got the news, that was when this country was the most susceptible to misinformation than it's ever been, even today in the internet age. Because though we are exposed to falsehoods all the time on the internet, we are also exposed to community notes and the truth all the time. The truth always rises above the crap that is the lies in these algorithms, as long as they're not controlled and as long as they're honest. The truth always wins. But here's clip number 7 of Julian Assange saying why he pleaded guilty to journalism.
I want to be totally clear. I am not free today because the system worked. I am free today after years of incarceration because I pled guilty to journalism. I pled guilty to seeking information from a source. I pled guilty to obtaining information from a source, and I pled guilty to informing the public what that information was. I did not plead guilty to anything else. I hope my testimony today can serve to highlight the weaknesses of the existing safeguards and to help those whose cases are less visible but who are equally vulnerable.
Folks, we're coming up on a break. Journalism is under attack. We saw what they did to Julian Assange. We see what they're doing to Alex Jones and to InfoWars and to this crew, this network, and to humanity itself. The best way to support us is to go to InfoWarsStore.com right now, or the AlexJonesStore.com right now.
Hey, how's it going? You know, watching those clips what everybody was saying in those clips, they're not wrong. They're not wrong at all. Now, have you heard Israel, no, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Iran attacked Israel. And from what I understand, Iran declared war on Israel. Israel declared war on Iran, which, what I've seen, things are really heating up in the Middle East. Yet, again, it's always escalating there in the Middle East. You know, it never cools down, it seems like. War after war in the Middle East, and we somehow always get involved in it. Now, you know, if I understand, the U.S. is sending more troops to the Middle East, to Israel, because we will support Israel no matter what happens. So, you know, we're getting our noses involved in something probably we shouldn't get involved with in the first damn place. Because if we didn't get involved in this and stayed out of it, that would force Israel to make a peace deal with Iran. But no, they don't want that. The military-industrial complex wants those checks coming. They want the money coming in. And war is profit, okay? War is profit. War is profit. As long as it's war, profit is good. But it boils down to in resource stuff like that. The war going on in the Middle East, in Ukraine and Russia, is all about profit and resources, okay? It's nothing to do with people's sovereignty, freedom, or rights. No. Don't believe that. Don't believe the hype of the mainstream media, okay? These wars are for profit, resources, and the Great Reset as well. So, like I said, war is business, and business is good. Business is good in war, basically. That's what I meant to say right there. So, you know, war for profit, basically, is all this is all about right here. Not to mention the Hurricane Helen that struck the southeast the other day. You know, what Greg Reese said was pretty much true. Weather manipulation, weather wars, you know. How they've been experiment controlling the weather all these years and stuff through HAARP and stuff like that. So, you know, could always be one big grand design to basically destroy those damn towns for lithium mines and stuff like that. They want to mine, and people don't want that, and rightfully so. So I guess they have to go. Matter of fact, the whole towns and communities is in their way, so they have to go. So what better way to get rid of the people, get rid of the locals, basically, is create a major storm, a major hurricane to go in there, destroy those damn towns and stuff like that, force people to relocate or move. Because let me tell you something. Like Alex Jones says, the radical left, the Democrats, or I say the Union Party in general, they don't give a shit about you. They don't care about you. All they care is profit and gains and political power. Because if they really cared about us, we won't be in this situation when they're in the first damn place. And especially Biden and Kamala Harris don't care about us. If Kamala Harris really cared about those people, she'd have been there by now. She'd been there already with resources and stuff like that. Exactly what would happen right there. But, you know, you have some political activist group, basically, who's trying to slash tires of truck drivers, basically, trying to go into those areas that was devastated by hurricanes, basically, trying to get in resources that they need, you know, like food, water, gas, and stuff like that, stuff that they need, medical supplies, and their tires has been slashed, hinder them from going. One big plan, all one great reset is a part of a big plan and a broader reset, basically. Is all this is all about right here. Okay, and where the rich warmongers, basically, and the global elites can profit even more. They don't care. They have ruined thousands of people's lives, maybe in the millions, people's lives in the southeast around that region, basically. They don't care. All they care about is money and power. They either relocate them somewhere else or leave them fend for themselves because they don't care. I kind of doubt they'll let them stay there and rebuild the community. So they're going to try to make it or fix it where they have no other choice but to relocate somewhere else. No, it's not like a broken record. I'm just trying to stress the point to you right here. Right here. Because, you know, going back to the election, it's very important to them that Trump loses. So why did Gavin Newsom pass a law that said you cannot ask for ID to vote? You know, what's so hard, what's so wrong asking somebody for government ID to vote? Nothing wrong with that. And Democrats screaming secure the election. Well, that's one way to secure the damn election right there. Even Arizona is saying that you don't have to show ID to vote. This is a travesty right here in itself. They want all these illegal migrants to come in there and vote. The American election is supposed to be Americans only, and nobody else. Right here. They do. But the Democrats, the elite Democrats, and the rhinos just don't care. All the Democrats care about is just maintain and stay in power. Because they really care about the people like they say they do. Chicago won't be in the shape that it is right now. Neither will be Los Angeles, New York, or any of these blue cities. They won't be in this shape. We won't have massive human trafficking going along the southern border, child trafficking. They would secure that damn border. They wouldn't care about votes or not if they really care about people and say people come first, basically. But no, all them is all about Democrats and rhinos. It's about money and power. That's all they care about. They don't care if our country's collapsing or reset. They don't care if our currency is going to collapse. They'll do something else. They'll reset. They don't care about the port strikes going on today. They'll cause massive inflation, cause our economy to tank, or anything else. They don't care. Because, I don't think these dock workers don't realize they might F themselves. Because as they go on strike, they might say, F this, and be replaced by robots and AI machines. I'm just being honest with you. Because what it looks right now, they have no intention of striking a deal with the dock workers. They don't. They're pretty much telling the dock workers to go F themselves. Pretty much. So they're striking and see where this goes right here. I'm not saying where it goes for sure. They could be replaced by machines. They could strike some kind of deal. I don't know. Or maybe they want the economy to crash. Basically, want our currency to crash. Go to global inflation and stuff like that because they don't care. And remember, I'm making this video October 1st. My time right now is October 1st, 2024 at 9:06 p.m. basically. Exactly what time it is right now, or 21:06. So, as it stands right now, this is October, and the October surprise is going to come up. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can speculate some major false flag event. October 7th is not far away. Okay? And we have all these illegal migrants here in the United States right now. And they will not do everything in their power to keep Trump out of the White House. Because let's face it, even CNN will admit, okay, you can watch for yourself, they admit that Trump did more for the hurricane victims in the southeast. Trump and Elon Musk did more for them than anybody else. Trump is trying to bring food and aid to those people affected by this hurricane. Elon Musk is trying to set a Starlink system into that system so they're going to have communications again. But matter of fact, they've been trying to set up a Starlink contract in that area so they're going to have internet in that area. But the government keep scrubbing it. So, keep scrubbing it. So basically the people there with no communication, no power, no nothing, no homes, ruined roads and stuff like that, nowhere to go, no food, no shelter, no nothing. And guess what? They don't care. I say it again. It's about, my opinion, about the lithium mines and stuff like that they want, where they can make tons of money off those damn mines. So basically, get a hurricane, devastate the damn area, ruin those people's lives, kill a couple hundred people, they don't care, and get them all relocated. They don't care. And get the mines going again. They don't care. Okay? Because of them, it's about money and power. That's it. Okay? Don't go by this mainstream narrative about any of this nonsense they're spewing out of the mainstream media. This vomit they're coming out of the mainstream media, basically. Going around and say the war in Ukraine is about the Ukrainian sovereignty. That's BS. Total lies. It's all about money and power and resources in Ukraine. They don't care about the Ukrainian people. If they did, they would prevent this war from happening. They would. So don't fall in nonsense about fight for the people of Ukraine's sovereignty. Okay, it's not. It's not saying Israel has a right to defend itself. Okay, Israel has a right to defend itself, but Israel has a right to commit mass genocide. Netanyahu has the right to escalate wars that's going to drag us into it. Because they're sending the National Guard, the military into the Middle East right now. They're sending military into Ukraine right now. Okay? What should that tell you? Nothing's de-escalating. Everything is escalating, basically, right now. So all I can say is, be ready for more false flag attempts. Okay? Be ready the best way you can. We stocked up on food. We stocked up on bullets. We stocked up on weapons, basically. Okay? We're going to stock up on water and fuel and stuff like that. And I might get a few neighbors, stuff like that. So I might start some kind of little tribe here, the best I can, But, yeah. It's coming down the pike. But right now, live your life one day at a time. That's all you can do. All you can do. And don't cancel no plans, no nothing. Just play it by ear. Play it day by day. That's all we can do. Check out World Alternative Media and the cool AI video I made here just for you. Display what's going on in the Middle East right here, okay? As we face these devastating hurricanes that are throwing at us and this major wars that's coming our way, basically, okay? Remember, shit's going to hit the fan. The shizzy's going to hit the jizzy. Shit's going to hit the fan, people, okay? It really is. Massive economic downturn like we've never seen before. Mass inflation, basically. Civil War, World War III, basically. And worst case scenario, thermonuclear war, basically. And the idiots in D.C., Washington, D.C., think we can win it, and we can survive it, and they're not going to care if 1.5 billion people dies. All part of the global depopulation network, basically. Check out the next video. I'm stitched to it. Peace out and bye-bye. Truth is power.
The Middle East is once again at a crossroads, a region perpetually on the brink of turmoil. A new wave of violence has erupted between Israel and Lebanon, shattering a fragile peace. This conflict, fueled by decades of animosity and historical grievances, has taken a dangerous turn, reigniting old wounds and creating new ones. Israel has launched a ground offensive into Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah strongholds with precision and force. Simultaneously, Iran has fired a barrage of missiles into Israel, escalating the conflict to unprecedented levels. The world watches with bated breath as the situation unfolds, with global leaders calling for restraint and diplomacy. The potential for this conflict to escalate into a wider regional war is a serious concern, with neighboring countries on high alert. Both sides appear entrenched in their positions, making a peaceful resolution seem distant and increasingly unlikely. The recent escalation can be traced back to a series of events, each contributing to the current volatile situation. Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Shia militant group based in Lebanon, has been a persistent thorn in Israel's side, launching attacks and provoking responses. Their attacks, coupled with Iran's growing military influence in the region, have pushed Israel to respond with force, aiming to neutralize the threat. The situation is incredibly complex, with a multitude of actors and interests at play, each with their own agendas and stakes in the conflict. What began as a localized conflict now threatens to destabilize the entire region, with ripple effects that could be felt far beyond the Middle East. The coming days and weeks will be crucial in determining the trajectory of this conflict, as the international community watches closely and hopes for a de-escalation. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis deepens, with thousands of civilians caught in the crossfire, displaced from their homes and in desperate need of aid. International peacekeepers and organizations are mobilizing, attempting to provide relief and mediate a ceasefire, though their efforts face significant challenges. History has shown that peace in this region is elusive, with numerous attempts at negotiation and ceasefires often falling apart. The impact on the younger generation is particularly devastating as children grow up amidst violence and instability, their futures uncertain. Around the world, people are taking to the streets in solidarity, calling for an end to the violence and a return to peace. Diplomatic efforts continue, with envoys from various nations arriving in the region, hoping to broker a deal that could bring lasting peace. Despite the bleak outlook, there are glimmers of hope as communities come together, determined to rebuild and heal from the scars of conflict. As the sun sets over the Middle East, the world prays for a dawn of peace, where the cycle of violence can finally be broken. The United States finds itself in a precarious position, navigating a complex and volatile international landscape. As the conflict between Israel and Iran intensifies, the stakes are higher than ever. On one hand, the US stands as a steadfast ally of Israel, committed to its security and right to self-defense. This alliance has been a cornerstone of US foreign policy for decades, reflecting deep historical ties and shared strategic interests. On the other hand, the US is wary of being drawn into another protracted Middle Eastern conflict. The memories of past engagements in the region, with their heavy costs in lives and resources, weigh heavily on the minds of policymakers. The Biden administration is walking a diplomatic tightrope, trying to balance these competing pressures. The US has publicly affirmed its support for Israel's right to defend itself against attacks from Hezbollah and Iran. This stance is not just about military support, but also about political and moral backing. Simultaneously, the US has urged restraint, calling for de-escalation and a peaceful resolution. The administration is keenly aware that a full-scale war could destabilize the entire region, leading to a humanitarian crisis and further complicating global security. The escalating conflict presents a significant foreign policy challenge for President Biden. His administration must navigate not only the immediate crisis, but also the long-term implications for US interests in the Middle East. The US is navigating a complex web of alliances and rivalries in the region. Each move is scrutinized by allies and adversaries alike, making the diplomatic landscape even more treacherous. Balancing its commitment to Israel's security with the broader goal of regional stability is a delicate task. The US must ensure that its actions do not inadvertently escalate tensions or alienate other key partners in the region. The Biden administration has engaged in diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation. High-level meetings, back-channel communications, and public statements are all part of a coordinated strategy to manage the crisis. However, the path forward remains uncertain. The region's history of conflict and the deep-seated animosities between key players make a quick resolution unlikely. The US is caught between its commitment to its ally and the need to prevent a wider war that could have devastating consequences. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks will have far-reaching implications, not just for the Middle East, but for global stability and US foreign policy. Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Shia militant group, plays a central role in the escalating conflict. Based in Lebanon, Hezbollah has significant military capabilities and a history of clashing with Israel. Their involvement adds a layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Hezbollah's ties to Iran are deep. Iran provides financial and military support to the group, viewing it as a crucial proxy in its regional power struggle with Israel and the United States. Hezbollah's actions often align with Iran's strategic objectives. Israel views Hezbollah as a direct threat to its national security. The group's arsenal of rockets and missiles, coupled with its willingness to engage in asymmetric warfare, poses a significant challenge to Israel's defenses. Israel has vowed to dismantle Hezbollah's infrastructure and capabilities. Hezbollah's deep roots in Lebanon complicate the situation. The group enjoys significant support among certain segments of the Lebanese population, particularly within the Shia community. This support base provides Hezbollah with a degree of legitimacy and protection within Lebanon. The international community is watching the escalating conflict between Israel and Lebanon with growing alarm. The violence has drawn condemnation from world leaders and international organizations who are urging restraint and a return to dialogue. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire, emphasizing the need to protect civilian lives and prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. The European Union has expressed deep concern over the escalating violence and its potential to destabilize the entire region. The conflict has sent shockwaves through the Middle East and beyond. Neighbouring countries are on high alert, fearing spillover effects. The international community is acutely aware of the potential for the conflict to escalate into a wider regional war. Diplomatic efforts are underway to de-escalate the situation and find a peaceful resolution. However, the path to peace remains elusive. The deep-seated mistrust between the parties involved, coupled with the complex geopolitical landscape, makes finding a lasting solution a daunting task. The escalating conflict between Israel and Lebanon casts a long shadow over the future of peace in the Middle East. The region, already fraught with historical grievances and political complexities, now faces an even more uncertain future. The violence has exacerbated existing tensions, deepened divisions, and fueled a climate of fear and uncertainty. Families are torn apart, communities are displaced, and the social fabric of the region is being stretched to its breaking point. The path forward remains unclear, fraught with challenges and potential pitfalls. The destruction of infrastructure and the displacement of millions have created a humanitarian crisis that demands immediate attention. The conflict highlights the fragility of the existing regional order. Peace talks have repeatedly broken down, and the divisions within and between communities have only grown wider. Decades of efforts to build trust and foster cooperation have been undermined by the recent violence. The painstaking work of diplomats and peace builders is at risk of being undone as old wounds are reopened and new grievances emerge. The cycle of violence, retaliation, and mistrust continues to plague the region. Each act of aggression is met with a response, perpetuating a seemingly endless loop of conflict. The international community faces a daunting task in trying to broker a lasting peace. The involvement of multiple stakeholders, each with their own interests and agendas, complicates the peace process. Addressing the root causes of the conflict, including the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the regional rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia, is essential. These issues are deeply intertwined and have far-reaching implications for the entire region. However, finding common ground on these complex issues will require extraordinary diplomatic skill and political will. The stakes are high, and the margin for error is slim. The future of the Middle East hangs in the balance. The decisions made in the coming months and years will shape the region for generations to come. The current conflict serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the urgent need for peaceful solutions. The images of injured civilians and destroyed homes are a powerful testament to the suffering that war brings. The international community must work together to de-escalate the situation, address the underlying issues, and create a more stable and peaceful future for the region. This will require not only diplomatic efforts, but also a commitment to humanitarian aid and reconstruction. In addition to political solutions, grassroots efforts to rebuild communities and foster understanding are crucial. Educational programs, community rebuilding efforts, and cultural exchanges can help to heal the wounds of conflict and build a foundation for lasting peace. Regional cooperation on economic development and renewable energy initiatives can also play a role in stabilizing the region. By working together on common goals, countries in the Middle East can create a more prosperous and peaceful future for all their citizens.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and this is breaking news. Of course, many of you have probably already heard, Iran has declared war on Israel, and Israel has declared war on Iran. As we've seen, a slew of ballistic missiles allowed, and the keyword there is allowed, through the Iron Dome in Tel Aviv, happening earlier today. This is massive news and a massive escalation into the agenda, the scripted agenda that's been in the playbook for a very, very long time. War begins, it says, at a zero hedge. Iranian ballistic missiles rain down on Israel. We are seeing incredible footage happening out of Israel. As we clearly see, there's very few interceptions there. And the Israeli dome seems to have completely gone down. And I don't believe in coincidences. This was done on purpose. They benefit so much in Israel from this. It allows them to commit further atrocities across the board, because this is what they've been asking for. Netanyahu literally just went to Congress and lobbied the U.S. government on a war with Iran. So this is not shocking at all. We called this happening months and months ago. We said this was going to happen because, of course, it was going to happen. So we're going to go into this latest news as well as what comes next as we see that the IDF says they're going to do major airstrikes across the board on Iran right away. Iran has never really been in a major war ever, at least in the last 200 years, so in modern history. So this is just very consequential. This shows from BRICS info on X. It says Iran officially declares state of war against Israel. So it's time to get prepared, my friends. We're going to get into this and more. Before we do, I urge you to check those links below. We have heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and get 5% off as well as free shipping in the United States. Very important in the face of the Great Reset, where this is heading. In the face of the ration food, the poisonous rations they will be feeding you in the face of war. They already say they're going to do it, so believe them. Get on it. Do something about it today. We also have whambeef.com, WAMBEEF.com, where you can get 10 plus year shelf life freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. If you use code WHAMBEEF, all one word, you will save 25% on your order. So please go and check that out today. This is something that's very important that allows you to continue eating meat when they ban it. Of course, we have multiple things happening to us at the same time, this war on humanity. They've already announced, the UN Pact for the Future just a few days ago announced with 193 countries signing on that they will ban meat, they will ban travel and all these different things by 2029. This is very, very, very dangerous. So this is a way for you to make sure that you are free and you aren't dependent on their rations later, which makes you dependent on their demands as well. That's whambeef.com. That's code WHAMBEEF, all one word. Now let's get into this. So war begins. Iranian ballistic missiles rain down on Israel. Bombs away Israel's military's breaking news wire says rockets have been fired from Iran at Israel. The IDF says it has engaged in Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 anti-air defense missiles. CNN has confirmed that Iranian missiles have made impact on Tel Aviv. Jordan and Iraq have shut their airspace. President Biden has ordered U.S. military assets in the region to shoot down inbound Iranian missiles, according to the White House. Now, remember, Iran is a big ally of Russia and China sending weapons to Russia. Russia, of course, has been defensive of Iran and working with them and sending them weapons. And of course, the U.S. sent Iran weapons. And of course, the U.S. Propped up the modern day Iran in the first place. It's all one big proxy, everything on both sides. Remember the 1953 military coup. And of course, Israel was propped up by the U.S. Russia was. Ukraine was through the coup in 2014. China in the 1940s and 1970s. I mean, it's just so obvious. They are fabricating this. They're creating an all-out conflict. And this is a form of false flag that we're witnessing today. So we have this footage of, bombs raining down on Israel. Now, if we were going by the official story here that they're just getting attacked, it's bad. Innocent civilians should never be in the path of it, though it shows that most of these bombs are headed at military bases in Tel Aviv and the Mossad headquarters. Nonetheless, and the Mossad headquarters, by the way, has allegedly been destroyed. But okay, Mossad, the one that trafficked Epstein to traffic children for blackmail purposes. Again, it's worth mentioning Hezbollah has killed less than 1% of the innocent civilians that Israel has. So again, this is this side better than that side. That's what the mainstream alternative media does. They frame it as, well, this side was better than that side, so therefore, we support this side or that side. It's nonsensical. This is a script. Nonetheless, it is worth pointing out. Stu Peters pointed out that this looks like Israel turned the Iron Dome off again to let themselves be attacked so they can justify a full-scale war with Iran. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Missile strikes documented falling in Tel Aviv amid Iranian attack. Footage has captured the moment a missile fell in Tel Aviv during the Iranian missile strikes on Israel. We have this close-up ballistic missile, pretty crazy footage. I'll rewind that. You could see it hit very close to this guy's apartment. So definitely insane footage. We have civilians in panic now. Again, considering the tens of thousands of women and children that have been killed, look, this is horrible. No civilian should ever be caught in the middle of this. But this also shows that if this is a false flag, which I believe it is, this is how little Israel cares about their own people. Maybe this should be a wake-up call for civilians in Israel. They'll target you. They have for a long time to justify things, just like they were involved in 9/11. Mossad was on the ground. Defense Department documents show that they knew ahead of time. So, and the Israeli art students, some of whom were Mossad agents in the World Trade Center, we know this stuff. They have been involved in this for a long time. The USS Liberty, my friends, if anyone has ever seen that, you know a lot about these false flags that come out of this. Headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside of Israel or Tel Aviv, is allegedly destroyed. So I don't know. I'm sure they backed up their blackmail on politicians in the United States and elsewhere, somewhere else outside of the actual building. But nonetheless, this is pretty huge news. It says here out of Aurora, Hezbollah fires rocket barrage at Mossad headquarters near Tel Aviv. And of course, there was actual footage of the rockets being fired from Iran that we could find here. So this is the actual takeoff of the rockets from Iran. Again, this is absolutely historic, my friends, but all part of the script. Do not be fooled. They're falling right into the trap. But I think that, and I've said this for a while, both sides are in on this, even if it means their own citizens are being killed. It's a cult of government, and they want to create a reset, and this is what they do. At the same time as I have these, Israel cucks attacking me on X, and this person wrote, Israel defense or the Israeli dome is overrated and B, useless against hypersonic missiles, especially with this kind of saturation. So we have people saying that on one side. Meanwhile, we have Israel saying on the other side that most of 180 missiles fired from Iran were intercepted. So which one is it? Is a dome powerless against ballistic missiles, which I don't believe at all, because Israel has said many times that they shoot down ballistic missiles with the Iron Dome? Or is it totally capable of shooting down most of the missiles, as Israel itself is saying at the same time? The back and forth is so ridiculous, and it just shows you that people will lie for either side of the agenda, no matter the case, in order to confirm their bias. So Blinken is calling for a global response, by the way, in favor of Israel. This is a massive step in a bad direction, again, by design. Again, Iran officially declares state of war against Israel. Just in, Israeli military announces that the IDF will carry out powerful airstrikes throughout the Middle East tonight. And who knows where in the Middle East. They've been targeting Iraq and Syria for the most part with this. They just hit by a Russian military base in Syria, which I reported on just yesterday. And of course, killing Soleimani, the Iranian general, in Iraq at the beginning of 2020. They bombed a funeral in Iran recently. They killed a bunch of their leaders in Lebanon recently. And they are just coming to the response. I mean, the Iranians, again, does Iran have a right to defend itself? I know this is scripted, but just using this rhetoric that they use in favor of Israel, does Iran have a right to defend itself? Israel has bombed countless countries and killed millions alongside the US and Britain in the last 30 years, and killed uncountable, just insane amounts of people back in 1948 in the establishment of the current Israeli state. And so we have this barrage that they throw at other countries, and then someone shoots back and they say terrorism, and then pulverizes and kills every innocent man, woman, and child, and then says, we're just trying to defend ourselves. You mean against Hamas, which you armed and funded in the first place, you absolute fucking psychopaths? Israel plans major airstrikes across the Middle East tonight. The Israeli military has confirmed that powerful airstrikes will be launched across the Middle East in response to ongoing tensions in the region, including Iran's missile attack today, according to Israel Army Radio. And we have this. U.S. destroyers intercept Iranian missiles targeting Israel. U.S. defense officials revealed that destroyers in the eastern Mediterranean successfully intercepted multiple missiles launched by Iran at Israel on Tuesday night. The officials spoke anonymously due to the sensitivity of the military operation, according to the Washington Post. So these destroyers are able to intercept these missiles. But according to Israelis promoting this as a real story and not a false flag, the Iron Dome, which is an automated system, can't stop ballistic missiles, even though they can see them coming from, 1,000 miles away? Iran is a ways away from Israel. So again, I don't buy this for a second. Just like October 7th was a false flag, the Israeli military at least knew about it, but we know that they were involved because there were a bunch of people on the ground that said that Israeli helicopters were shooting at innocent civilians. There's video footage of it. There's a stand down. And of course, Hamas was armed and funded by the US in the first place. And of course, we have documents from Egypt 10 days before saying that it would happen. We have Operation Jericho Wall and other operations going back years showing exactly how many people would be kidnapped and how many people would be killed. These are false flag events to bring in the war, to bring the world into war with both Russia, China, Taiwan, Israel, Iran, Ukraine, and onward and onward and onward. Throughout Europe, throughout Britain, throughout the US and Canada, as they call for conscription and food rations. This has been planned for a very long time. And eventually it brings in the Great Reset and the global technocracy of enslavement. Germany condemns Iranian missile attack on Israel in strongest terms. They've been waiting for this for a long time. I reported last time there was some missiles shot from Iran that this would happen again and it would be used as so-called justification to further expand the war. And Iran knows that. That's why I know that they're not just trying to defend themselves. They are part of the PSYOP. So is Turkey. The people are the ones that are the victims in this. Of course, at the end of the day, this isn't about one nation versus another nation. This is a war on humanity, a spiritual sacrifice, if you will. And they need the right excuse, the right pretext, with the destruction of the food supply, the grid, and all these things, and the demoralization of people and emergency orders under the guise of safety and security with war, and then the mass refugees that Israel brags about sending migrants to the West. And then the same people who seem to support Israel are against the migrants, even though Israel is bragging about sending those migrants to them. Then you cause emergency restrictions under civil war and world war simultaneously in multiple different countries around the world. And under that, you get, these restrictions that the WEF said themselves that they use COVID as a test run for. And of course, they're using war as an excuse for. That brings in, the new economic order, which is from the West to the East. It's the end of the dollar, the propping up of BRICS, and then the new world reserve currency and the CBDC with digital IDs that they're rolling out across the board, social credit and carbon credits based on your allegiance, your compliance, based on your behavior. It'll be determined what food you can get, what kind of electricity you're allowed to use after they've taken that away from you. And of course, restrictions on internet usage and all these different things, as they have a Pentagon mesh network like Starlink across the board that people are going to be utilizing based on a social credit, based on algorithm on things like X, which is being registered as a bank. People are being fooled. They're being dragged into a global conflict, and they have absolutely no idea. They're collecting this data on you, and they want you in 15-minute cities locked down with the only reason to leave the city is if you're a terrorist and you support, the other side of the narrative that we have manufactured. This is where they're going. People say that sounds far-fetched. I haven't been wrong yet. It isn't about chicken little skies falling, as some of the idiots comment on my videos regularly. The trolls that don't even watch the videos that come on down, press the downvote on it within a second of clicking on it and just go down and comment and, troll. Fine, go for it. I don't give a shit. Oh, you're a grifter. Yeah, I'll trade bank accounts with you any day. I guarantee you I'm fucking bankrupt. I doubt I could be considered a fucking grifter. I'm wanting to give people options and solutions that are real, unlike many people out there who are just saying, go vote for this guy, he'll save you. Well, Trump blames Iran for the assassination attempts, which were a psyop created by intelligence communities, whether he knows that or not. And that will cause war with Russia and China and part of the Great Reset shift. Also, he wants biometrics on migrants, which is part of the agenda as well. After the CIA infiltrated their countries and caused them to leave and come to the United States, offering welfare, all these different things, and then put biometrics on people. Great. And then on the other side, you have the transhumanist, leftists who want, to go after children and change their genders. By the way, Israel is the manufacturer of most of the gender-bending drugs for children in the world. And also, of course, as we see all these politicians across the board saying, we stand with Israel. Remember, like Liz Truss and people like that, Keir Starmer, whoever it might be, were friends with Savile or Epstein. Take your pick. AIPAC has blackmail on them, and they in the United States, and they get the job done. Okay, so you have that, and you have, of course, the left going after people with the LGBTQ stuff, the destruction of nature, the destruction of manlyhood and masculinity, the destruction of culture. And it's like two sides to the coin that benefit each other so greatly, and they want war with Russia. The right wants war with Iran. Both end up with war with Russia and China, both of them. And it leads to the Great Reset, which Klaus Schwab says the role model for the Great Reset is China. So they've been propped up for years. Israel's been propped up for years. Israel created Hamas. The US and Israel created ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Mujahideen, Taliban, Muslim Brotherhood. They create all their issues that then go up against. And then people get emotional in the middle of war and they think, oh, this time it's different. It's not a false flag. It's real. And anyone that says it's not real is crazy. Just like they said I was crazy when I said it was a false flag chemical attack in Syria, that Assad had nothing to do with gassing his own children in his own country. I said that years ago, and that was 2017 and 2018, respectively, to the day in April, 1 year apart from each other. And everyone said I was crazy. Then what came out years later on the back pages of different books and news publishings? H.R. McMaster, the guy who was in charge at the time. Oh, yeah, and Mad Dog Maddox and all those guys. Oh, yeah, that was a false flag. There's no evidence. We never had evidence that Syria was involved. It just allowed us to escalate our war in Syria. So everything I say comes true. January 22nd, 2020, when I said COVID was a hoax in order to bring in vaccine passports and restrict people, quarantine people, and bring in climate restrictions later, well, boom, that happens. And then in 2022, the World Economic Forum says COVID was a test in order to get people's compliance to bring in climate restrictions and lockdowns of 15-minute cities. People can call me Chicken Little Skies Falling all they fucking want. I warned about inflation. I warned about the interest rate risks. I warned about all these fucking things, and people will still say, oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. And then when it happens, oh, you're crazy for not going along with it. It's really, really frustrating. Look, humanity itself is at risk here. It's in the crosshairs. And people just want to be angry and don't want solutions. And will ignore all these things happening because they say it's negative. Well, I have always said, if you're in a tribe 1,000 years ago and you're getting stalked by a lion, and you're like, hey, there's a lion stalking us, and the rest of the tribe's like, hey, that's negative. Don't talk about that, man. Then you're going to get eaten alive in your sleep. Or, you say, oh, well, that's negative, but you know what? We need to make a positive of it. So we need to take care of this problem and mitigate the problem. So we'll find the lion and we'll come together as a group and get rid of the lion. Nationalities aren't the way to fix this. Government isn't the way to fix this. Independence and building community and growing and having shelter, having property, having food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. Having money outside of the financial system that's run by the state and private entities alike. So, of course, federal government with fiat, legal tender attached to the banking system with, quantitative easing and zero reserve policies, which are bringing in now, and complete bankruptcy across the board, lending debt and forcing you to pay it. All these things we need to remove ourselves from. That's how we win. We don't win a war, their war, by the way, because we, at the end of the day, are in the crosshairs. We, as human beings, are in the crosshairs. The way we win is by rejecting, withdrawing, looking in the mirror, being the change you wish to see in the world. And yet, too many people are on their knees begging the state to save them. It's like a lot of these mainstream alternative media rebels, like we have the mainstream media pushing war, we have the mainstream alternative media perpetuating the war by just going along with the narrative, the alternative narrative. We have We Are Change, Luke Rudkowski, We Are Change, based on be the change you wish to see in the world. Yet he's like, oh, Trump, and we need Elon Musk in the cabinet, and all these guys, these technocrats, and all these people that actually want war, but we won't talk about that because our audience doesn't want us to talk about that. Which, by the way, when I worked with Luke Rudkowski at We Are Change, he literally said, don't say negative things about Trump. Don't say negative things about Israel. Don't say negative things about Bernie Sanders. I'm saying that to you right now because it's true, and I have many other people that worked with him who will say the same. These mainstream alternative media people are seen as rebels, even though people like him supported masks and restrictions early on. Tim Pool, all these people. Absolutely bullshit narratives that are in some cases, useful idiots. Sometimes they're actually paid by this. I don't think Luke is actually paid by, the establishment to say these things. I think he's just an idiot. But again, we have all these people falling for these narratives and pushing them, and it puts people in danger, because then we have the two-sided narratives that controlled opposing narratives. Just like we used to have CNN versus Fox News, now we have mainstream media versus independent media, and it's pushing it on both sides. It's Trump or Kamala or RFK Jr. All of them want war to some degree. And even if they didn't, they're presidents. If they want to be presidents, they're not going to be in power. What happened to us understanding that presidents weren't in power? They're controlled. They're puppets. No matter how bombastic and loud they are puppets. Look at Trump's entire administration. It was just filled with people that were against him, and he had to keep firing them. And then they just kept bringing in more people that tried to fuck with him. Okay? He could not actually do any more than mitigate something a little bit to make it look like things were getting better, which they were to some extent, but only because they had to allow a little bit of a watered down effect there. And then it comes slapping back with a COVID hoax. They always have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That is what they do psychologically. The Tavistock Institute has been studying this for years. Operation Mockingbird Media, the CIA, Mossad, they know what they're doing next. This war is going to get crazier. There's going to be ground invasions, more so than we already seen, like we saw just yesterday in Lebanon. Things escalate fast. There's going to be combat between Russia and the United States, and Iran and the United States. Already is to some degree. And it won't just be fought in Syria and Iraq, two beautiful countries, by the way. It'll be fought not in your backyard, though I do believe they're going to bring Mexico into this. They're planting IEDs at the border and attacking cartels, which they propped up in the first place, as Mexico has Russian and Chinese military parades in Monterrey. That is going to be a big issue, but it's not going to be in your backyard. They're going to do this technologically. They're going to do this to the currency. They're going to sell treasuries, like with Operation Sandman, which we recently reported on, and they will sink the ship. They will win, because it was scripted a long time ago that they would win. The U.S. is in on their own collapse. Isn't it obvious by now? Anyway, I've ranted on too long, but I wanted to actually add something to this because, again, most people are just breaking news. This is happening. Ooh, it's bad. I want to talk about the reality here. And on top of that, I want to point out that there are real solutions to this outside of just begging the state for help from the things that they did in the first place.